Hello and welcome to this month's edition of What's Cooking Rutland. I'm Bethany. I'm a nutritionist at the Vermont Department of Health and part of Rutland's Nutrition Coalition that brings you this show each month. And so it's March, and while the calendar doesn't say spring until later in the month, I did read that this is now meteorological, did I pronounce that correctly? Spring. So we can say happy spring quite safely, hooray, hooray. And so March is also National Nutrition Month, which means I absolutely have to have my favorite dietitian come and join me, favorite? Which is one of my many favorites. So we'll correct that. Sorry, guys. Donna Hunt, who's a registered dietitian at the
Rutland Diabetes and Endocrinology Center.
Yeah, it comes off of your tongue way better than
had
mine.
A little practice.
You've had a lot of practice. A lot of practice. So we have talked about National Nutrition Month in the past. It is an annual program and event that's put together by the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics at eatright.org. And their theme is right there on the screen, Go Further with Food this year. So it's kind of a fun theme that could be spun in a lot of different ways, is go further. There's a lot of talk in Vermont and across the country about food waste, and so thinking about stretching food dollars or using all the food that you have, going further with making the most of everything that's there. That's one direction. We're not going down that direction, though we kind of sort of could as we talk about vegetables. The other is really how can you go further with food for your own personal health, and what are your goals, whether it's sports nutrition or health, or you're at the Diabetes and Endocrinology Center, so managing your health, going further and having food help you to do that. So if Donna's here, we talk about fruits and vegetables.
Always.
It's just what we do.
It's just what rolls off the tongue.
Just what we do. So I think we've done this before. We're going to revisit it again in thinking about getting to all those fruits and vegetables in a day. You kind of sort of have to start your day out with them. So this is vegetables for breakfast. So we're going further with food by getting to our fruits and veggies for the day by making sure breakfast is loaded with them. So my favorite websites, foodhero.org is where you're going to find most of these recipes, with a few other spots thrown in, and you'll find the recipes online. And we're going to get started with some things that are going to take a little time, some little magic of television here. And so vegetable quiche muffins. So I have my muffin tin here, but these aren't going to be some of my other muffins that I like to bake. These are going to be vegetable cheese ones. So Donna's going to play with some of the cheese and the veggies. The recipe talks specifically about using scallions, tomatoes, and broccoli. So it's really, this is a nice combination in terms of, you know, veggie family here. Cruciferous and, what do we call the onion family besides the onion family?
The onion family.
The onion family, I know. But you know, each of these has, particular phytonutrients or phytochemicals that are associated with each.
That's going to bug me now.
I know, sorry. It'll come to you
There is
probably
an
like
onion family.
25 minutes into the show, and it'll go. And all of my foodie friends can scold me very well later on about that. So we're spraying this muffin tin really well. Tip when I did these at home, because I did to have them done ahead of time, it worked pretty well to have them sprayed. I was toying with using liners. But they actually came out okay. So Donna's going to cut up a cup of each of these, because we're going to just kind of divide everything up into the muffin tin. And I'm going to work on the filling. And what's kind of fun about the filling is that it calls for baking mix, so biscuit or whatever other generic baking mix you might have around. And rather than doing that, you can actually make your own. And so that's what we have here, is a make your own baking
And
mix.
what's nice with that, if you have anybody that needs to be gluten-free with the family, you can make a gluten-free variety.
Oh, aren't you smart? Aren't you clever? And me, I'm just going down the road of the recipe just calls for, that I worked with, 3 cups of all-purpose flour, but you know me, I can't do anything 100% all-purpose flour. Need to get whole grains in there. So this is 1.5 cups of all-purpose flour and 1.5 cup of whole wheat flour. And then there's a little bit of, there's some baking powder, a little bit of salt, and then a stick of cold butter that was cubed, and you can either blend it together using a pastry blender, a fork, your fingers, a blender, a mixer. I threw it in my food processor until it starts to, I've washed my hands, resemble almost like little crumbs. So it kind of has this crumbly texture to it. So you can make your own and store this in the fridge because it's got butter, and it'll last you, the recipe says, for up to 3 months. So,
Excellent.
yeah, I know, really cool.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you have something, this is what you do.
Tablespoon first?
Tablespoon,
or-
yep. Tablespoon right on the bottom of the cheese first, and then go from there. So Donna's going to be doing these layers in the muffin cups. There's, it's a tablespoon of cheese. We've cheated and just gotten stuff that was already shredded, but a light cheddar. And then it's going to be dividing up the veggies amongst each of those, and then adding the wet stuff. So the wet stuff. What do we have here? 4 eggs, a cup of the baking mix, and 2 cups of non-fat milk. Yeah, so we're just going to get this rolling. I need a whisk. I didn't put that
And
next
what's
to me.
so nice about these is they are so grab and go. So many
Yes.
times I have people say that, you know, I don't have time to make something for breakfast. Well, you can make these ahead, throw them in the freezer, throw it in the microwave just before you're walking out the door, and then eat it on your drive to work.
You
or
can.
kids
You can. I
have
mean, you
it
probably
quick
need
and
a
easy.
napkin, but they help. I think they're going to hold together pretty well because of these eggs. So adding these 4 eggs.
Okay, so we've got the
Let's throw this into the
onions.
4 eggs, 2 cups of milk, and I pre-measured at home. So this is 2 cups of skim milk that we're just going to pour into this bowl.
And you could do this with any vegetables.
Yes, yeah. So it's really what veggies
Asparagus.
does your family like, and just go for it.
Got leftover like caramelized onions and mushrooms.
Ooh, yum. All right, and then my 1 cup of
Okay, I've got to
baking mix.
steal a little from here to there.
So yeah, any veggies that are, you know, whatever your family likes. And I love this idea of leftovers because that's just like so perfect with go further with food and
Yeah.
minimizing food waste.
Great way to use up if you cooked a little too much,
of
or you
something.
wanted to cook it all because it was going to start going bad. And I always cut what I always refer to as the tree trunks
Yes, I
Right.
know, of the broccoli.
into it, and no need to just do the flowerets.
Same. And yeah, chopping them into small pieces. So if I've
Yeah.
added a little Italian seasoning, a little salt, a little pepper to this. Yeah, and I do the same, and I was just making, when I was playing with this earlier, a really conscious effort to make sure that I was cutting those trunks into smaller pieces so that they would go into the muffin cup well. So we're just gonna mix this all together.
I have more than a cup here. Do you want me to dice it all up?
Probably not, because otherwise there won't be any room for what's going to hold it all together.
I mean, do you want the leftover diced up for taking home?
Oh, aren't you an angel? Sure. Yum.
Okay.
And so with this batter, we're going to just pour it over the veggies once they're in place. And if there's any left over, you could actually bake this off in a larger container, a larger dish, or even a pie plate to turn it into a full-fledged quiche if you wanted to. It's just going to take a little longer baking time, because as it is, this is going to bake in an oven 375 degrees for 30 to 40 minutes, so you won't quite get to it. So yum. So I'm going to go ahead and just help sprinkle some of these in here.
And what was it? Tomatoes.
A little tomato. Now, my muffin tin that's here is is a standard muffin tin. They make large ones now, right? for those.
I don't know. I have such old ones.
I know
and
those supersized muffins
Yeah,
that a lot of
and
people, are making and buying. And so this recipe would be actually a good use for one of those supersized because you could just load even more vegetables into each one. So that, to me, that's like the only good use for any of those. Otherwise, for a regular muffin, you really want to stick from a portion perspective with this other size. So I'm just hesitant to throw. I'm going to just reach over for a few tomatoes.
I won't cut your fingers off.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Oh, this is going to be pretty
Doesn't
too.
it? I know. They really are kind of fun. All right.
And you could put a little ham into it if you had a few
Yeah.
left over to that. Use those leftovers.
Use those leftovers. Go further with food. I am going to remember this. All right. Oh gosh, let's see. How well can I do this? Ha 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 ha. Give it a whirl. Careful, Bethany.
Oh, well done.
Ooh, not bad. When I did this at home, I had this in a measuring cup, so it was super easy to pour. So here I am playing. So we're just going to fill up these little muffin tins.
I didn't exactly measure.
I know,
But-
and that's what you never measure with vegetables.
That's right. You've noticed that, huh?
I noticed that, but it's good because
more
again,
the better.
The more the better. The trick here is that if it's too full, just there wouldn't be enough to hold it together. But we've done well here. I think they're going to hold together quite lovely.
I keep popping just one more little piece of vegetable.
There you go. I know. And that's really the key, getting to fruits and vegetables enough each day. I think, well, I'm going to be hopeful that for a lot of folks, they're just underestimating how much they're eating because a serving size of veggies is actually pretty small, right?
Half cup
Help
of,
me out here,
of
dietitian.
raw or a full cup of cooked
Yeah, so it's
is
really
what's considered
not that much.
a
So
portion.
we probably have at least a quarter of a cup in each of these, right? Okay, so this is filled, and so I don't know if we want to get a shot of this before I pop it into the oven. Ta-da, aren't they pretty? Oh my gosh, it's so lovely. Look at that great color. And Donna, if you would handle that door for me, we'll get these in. And let those go. Awesome. And let's move on to pancakes. Super fun.
Carrot pancakes.
Carrot pancakes. I know, I'm so excited. I've
Yay.
been looking at this recipe forever and haven't made it. So I'm really, really excited about doing this. And we're also going to make our favorite berry sauce that
It's so good.
I know. It's so good and it's so easy. So I'm just going to slide some stuff
Yogurt,
out of
that's
the way.
the other thing that berry sauce would be good at.
What's that?
Is yogurt.
Yes,
plain
it'd be
yogurt.
really, really good. So, carrot pancakes, again from foodhero.org. What I do need to get started, so this one has a lot of whole grains in it. It starts out with some oats and I used whole wheat flour instead of all-purpose flour because that's just what I do. And grated carrots, but first, before I need to stop talking and put the oats need to soak in buttermilk, and if I don't get them going, they're going to be like really hard and crunchy. So,
What kind of seeds? What kind of seeds?
no,
Oh, the
just
oats.
the oats. And this was my buttermilk.
Which buttermilk is, you would think, from buttermilk, it sounds like it's very high in fat and it's thick, so you would think it's very high in fat.
But it's
It
not.
isn't.
It's really low in fat.
It's very low in fat
Yeah.
and healthy for us and all sorts of great flavor and just yummy.
So yeah, so I'm going to let the oatmeal because I used whole oats.
Which is much better because you've got a little more fiber to them.
Right, as opposed to instant or either something in between instant and whole oats, right? Or am I making it up? Am I making it up?
There's the old-fashioned.
Old-fashioned, yeah.
And then there's the steel cut
Steel
oats.
cut, yeah. And I wasn't sure. Steel cut oats would really have to soak, though
Yeah.
the instant ones might be okay. okay, but they would need to for
would,
sure soak.
But they wouldn't
So,
be
I
as
looked up,
healthy.
hooray, hooray. So we have the WIC code up on the screen now. So if you are a family participating in the WIC program or know someone who is, point them to this show. And when they watch the show, catch that code and they can call it into our office at the health department or whichever office you are, because a lot of folks around the state are watching the show now, which is super fun.
Yay.
And that will get your benefits going for the next 3 months. So it's a really lovely
That's a great
collaboration. Isn't it
incentive.
so fun? So we're going to let these soak for a smidge. I just wanted to talk about the carrots a little bit before I start dumping everything else into this one bowl. So carrot pancakes, so excited. Some kids get kind of freaked out when they see different things inside their meals. So the oatmeal is going to add enough texture to the pancake that hopefully it's going to disguise some of this. But this recipe specifically called for using the fine edge of a grater. So this side here, as opposed to most of us usually work with this larger or medium shred. Instead, working with the fine, that way the carrot comes out much really smaller. Fine. And so it may be for kiddos who are a little food phobic or veggie phobic, a little friendlier and harder to find. So you know your family, so you know what they'll accept and what they won't. I don't think that my adult nephew is watching, but my favorite story of Pierce is having made chocolate zucchini cake and thought it was going to be a big hit. I know, until he saw a piece of green. And that was it. It was done. No more. So I've always been like really mindful of knowing who my audience is when I'm actually making
brown chocolate
something.
would disguise the green.
That was kind of sort of what I thought, but it didn't work out that way. Didn't work out that way. So I'm going to then add carrots and egg to this, and so
did he ever trust you again after that?
You know what? Kind of sort of in general, the family didn't trust me really well. They were always a little suspicious about what is Aunt Bethany putting into
the
things.
time that I brought black bean brownies to
yes,
a meeting.
Exactly,
Yes,
exactly.
They didn't really trust me after that.
Yeah. So I'm trying to think, unless I knew that there were allergies, I think I just sort of stopped telling people what I was doing so that they wouldn't know. So yeah, playing those games. So we're gonna put about a half a cup of the carrot in here, and again, we can be generous because it's vegetables, so the more the merrier. Just add a little bit more for good measure. And then in here is going to go an egg.
It would be so fun to cook Thanksgiving dinner with you.
You think? You haven't seen my house when I've been preparing Thanksgiving dinner. It's a little chaotic. It's a little crazy. Yeah, woo, nuts. This recipe calls for a tablespoon of oil, and I'm using olive oil, so you could just use anything, but I think there's enough flavor stuff happening in here that you're not going to really notice. It's also extra virgin, so it's a little milder in flavor. I am going to add some vanilla. The vanilla is optional, but that's then going to help to boost up what's going on.
And that's really good vanilla.
And it's really good vanilla, yeah. It is. It really is worth working with real ingredients.
Good ingredients,
and quality ingredients. It goes a long way. You have converted me, I will tell you, my friend, to working with only fresh lemon juice. So you've done it. I don't work with
that.
anything
And
else,
the other thing that I have gotten to love, I bought at some spice store. They had dehydrated lemon zest. So if you don't have a fresh lemon, this dehydrated lemon zest is a wonderful.
Is the trick instead?
You can just keep it right on your spice shelf, and it lasts forever. And it's just the real McCoy. It really is lemon.
Good to know. So this was a quarter of a cup of skim milk that I added, and we may end up having to add a little bit more milk if they're not wet enough, but yeah, the oatmeal is really kind of sort of disguising Or do you want to start playing with berries while I just do some of the dry ingredients? 'Cause
Okay.
it's pretty simple.
Can I
and that
just
way we
turn this on? Because I learned the hard way of starting to cook pancakes without a really hot griddle.
Yeah. The nice
It's
thing about
really
an electric
bad.
griddle is that it heats really fast.
Okay, I don't know
Really,
if I
really
turned
fast,
it on
but-
right or
okay.
not.
Yeah, it's got a light on, so that's good. So dry ingredients are really simple. It's a half a cup of flour. All purpose is what the recipe says. This is white wheat flour. I'm going to come over and borrow
So this
a
calls
tablespoon of
for
sugar. So I'm just going to squeak over
3
here.
cups of mixed berries, fresh or frozen. And Bethany bought these, and notice that it says no sugar added. I always tell people never trust what it says on the front
I
of the
know,
label,
it's scary.
because sometimes if it's no sugar added, there might be a sugar substitute in it, something like that. Just go by what's on the back of the label, the numbers of the grams of carbohydrate, grams of fat, all that, and then also the ingredients, and just looking at, is there anything else added to this? And there is not a thing added to this other than blackberries, blueberries, raspberries, and strawberries. So this is
Yay.
the real McCoy,
Just fruit,
which is
nothing else.
excellent. Now, how can I do this so I don't make a mess of berries all over? So 3 cups, and these are already all defrosted.
Or it could be frozen. That just would take a little longer in the microwave. But it works
And-
both ways. I see you, pancakes. You're ready to cook.
And yes, berries are higher in carbohydrate, as any fruits have carbohydrates in them. But they're so loaded with really important nutrients, vitamins, minerals, fibers, phytonutrients, those
Yeah.
PHYTO nutrients that are so important for our immune system, to keep our immune system strong, to fight off cancers, to fight off colds, to fight off all those things.
All those things.
As well as just everything else in our body that those wonderful good things do. We just have 1.5 cups of berries. The recipe calls for 3 cups of berries and 3 tablespoons of sugar. So we're just going to do 1.5 tablespoons of sugar. And probably wouldn't even need any sugar because it is so
I've always
sweet,
been,
but
right, it's like, do you really need to, one of these days when I make this, I'm not going to add any sugar and just see.
I bet it would be totally fine.
And, I have my little picture here of maple syrup, and you could always add a little maple syrup. March, it's Maple Month. If anybody plays with Harvest of the Month programs at school or in their home, you can check that out, the Vermont Harvest of the Month online, and find lots of really fun recipes. And March is Maple Month because it's sugaring season. So, yeah. All right, and so I think I've got a fairly hot skittle here. Of course, the way to test is the water
The
dancing test.
drop of water.
And it's definitely dancing. So here we go. Pancakes on camera, always a dangerous thing.
And I did 2 teaspoons of cornstarch. And we just stir it all together and put it in the microwave on high for 2 minutes and stir it, and then another 2.5 minutes.
All right, so
This is
pancakes
just
on
the
the griddle.
best.
I know, really, really fun. So while that goes in and while these pancakes cook, we're going to pretend that we're pulling our veggie quiche muffins out of the oven and just plunk them here. And so these, again, magic of television, made these last night. So they come out of the muffin tin really, really easily, and they actually hold together very, very nicely. So as Donna's talking about, as this being an on-the-go kind of food, it really holds together well. And so these have been reheated and they're ready to go. They're not necessarily super beautiful. They're a little flat, but very tasty, and they do the trick. So we've got a plate of muffins, waiting for pancakes. That's in there. We're not going to have time, I think, to throw together this other recipe. It's going to be available online. It's called breakfast tabbouleh. And so it's taking a dinner tabbouleh that's usually made with lots of vegetables, and in this case, filling it with lots of fruit. So taking that bulgur wheat and then adding whatever it is that you want. So whatever dried fruits, fresh berries, nuts, and mixing it together with a little bit of lemon juice and some yogurt on top, and really pretty yummy. And it's not quite the same as, you know, my favorite breakfast these days is overnight oats. So 1 part oatmeal, 1 part milk, and 1 part yogurt. You can use steel cut oats for this. The instant ones cook up really quickly. Any milk, any yogurt. I typically am doing a non-fat milk and a non-fat plain yogurt, because then all the flavor comes to what you add in. So you can add in chia seeds, flax seeds, nuts, peanut butter if you're a chocolate fiend, a little bit of dark cocoa powder, and shake it all up or stir it really well overnight in the refrigerator, and then it's ready to go for the next morning. If oatmeal isn't something you want to do, quinoa works really well as well. Any grain, really, any grain that you want to play with. See, are these ready to come to? Oop, not yet. No, not going to try. Ha, 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 ha. They're going to watch me flip pancakes. They weren't ready to flip yet. That would have been a disaster. So
no disasters on
No
TV.
disasters allowed.
That's
Yeah,
not
exactly. Well, I've had plenty of them in the past, but they're looking good. They're all bubbly, which is usually a good sign. But the edges don't quite look dry enough, and it might be. I think you can kind of sort of see that on screen. So we'll check. So maybe I'm just going to give myself a little hand here in flipping. Oh, that worked! Hooray! That was one. Quick, go look at fruitberry sauce while I flip these others. I love an electric skillet, but you just don't have the same amount of real estate as you do when you are, you know, working on a regular skillet at home. So that's kind of the challenge.
And you got that edge to work with.
Yes, exactly.
Oh, you're good at
so
that.
They're all right. They're all right. They're a little foldy, but they'll work. They'll work. So they're needed a little smidge longer?
Yes, it takes another 3 more minutes.
Another 3 more minutes. So we have some plates to then throw some of these pancakes on, and we'll get them on some plates before and that's 3 more. Oh, we're going to finish just like in the nick of time.
You're good.
So we are. So yeah, so vegetables for breakfast. And what I like is I'm looking at these pancakes, Donna, I don't see any carrots. I mean, there's a little hint of orange, but because, you know, you've got brown pancakes, you just don't even see those carrots. So for your, you know, if you've got phobic kiddos in the house.
What is it? Deliciously deceptive?
You know, oh, right, exactly. Deliciously deceptive. That works. That works. So we're going to throw some pancakes on a plate, pull out some fruit sauce.
That wasn't a full 3 minutes, but it's thickened up a little bit. It would thicken up a little more if I cooked it a little bit longer.
It'll thicken as it cools, was my memory of how that actually works. So we can we won't throw, but we can spoon. You got it there, perfect. Ooh, some of that berry sauce on top. And again, March is maple month for the harvest of the month, and folks are participating in Farm to School, so we would need to add a little maple syrup to this as well, but oh my gosh. I know, it smells so good, it looks so great, it looks so great. So I'm gonna keep cooking some pancakes. I think we're probably good. We've got our little mini quiches out here as well. These are great for breakfast, on the go, also awesome for dinner. And so we've got lots of vegetables, hidden, not so hidden for breakfast, which is awesome, and fruits.
Yummy.
I'm really excited. Next month, for April, Grace Davy is going to be back in the kitchen studio. It's been a while, so excited, and we're going to do our annual freezer challenge. So we've already been talking about what's lingering in our freezer that needs to get used up. So there'll be some tomato things happening, probably some berry things happening.
Zucchini?
Could be. There's none in mine, but Grace probably has it in hers. So freezer challenge next month. I hope you'll join us. I'm going to keep cooking pancakes. Happy National Nutrition Month. Go further with food. Donna, thank you. And we'll see you next time. Thanks all.